today I'm going to talk to you about personal leadership in diplomacy. I thought of my own list out of my experience and out of what I observed that's needed in very, very busy times, and I drew up this list. So I would also start by determination and confidence, because you have to be determined to do your job and to do it well, and to have confidence that you can make it and that it's the right thing and this is what you have to do. Of course, for a leader who's leading a team, you have to have energy. You really have to have a lot of spare energy to motivate the team and to push a project forwards. I could tell that because, for instance, thinking of my ambassador, she has endless energy and endless ideas. And if it weren't for her sometimes to, motivate us, I think it would be it wouldn't have been as easy to have had such a rich presidency as we had. I think it's also important to have courage as a leader and in general to take risks, but not foolish risks, and not to be afraid of making mistakes, because you know that sometimes you learn from mistakes. No, you always learn from mistakes, not sometimes. So you have to have courage to take even dangerous choices, and I'll come back to that a bit later. It's also important to have an ability to prioritize, because on a daily basis at an embassy, not just during a presidency, but in general, there are many, many things you have to do, and you have to know how to prioritize them. As in life, some things are more important and some things are not as important, so it's important to know what's more important than the others. Coming back to taking risks, it's also important to have the willingness to take responsibility, because many of us could be leaders, but not all of us want to be necessarily. You have to take responsibility for your team, for a project, and that's not always easy. And people sometimes will stay in their comfort zone and prefer to take it lighter. But I think personal leadership also means being willingness to give a bit more and to take responsibility. Coming back to risks and analysis, I think leaders have to have a good assessment of what should be done and what should not be done, so their judgment, in principle, should be very good. Because sometimes, yes, you take risks, but they're not worth it, and they should be able to assess whether indeed it is the case to do it. You have to have, of course, good interpersonal skills and good communication skills. And very important, yes, the capacity, because no leader is a leader by themselves, the capacity to identify the best qualities in others, in your team, and to foster them. So not to inhibit them or not to keep them under your dictator style leadership, but to also motivate your workers to become better and maybe leaders themselves one day. And enthusiasm, which goes with energy, I think, very much. And coming back to taking risks, and I will make here a small, I will give here a small example. So I said we organized a lot of events, and one of them, and I was involved in it as well, was a panel discussion with representatives from the Netherlands Scientific Council for Government Policy, the VWRR. Do you know them? Yeah, I guess you know them because they're quite well known. And they had published a report on European variations, which focuses, and I will quote here, on the way in which member states can continue cooperating in a productive and constructive manner through an approach that allows for variation. Now, to Romanian ears, this could be understood as multi-speed Europe, or some members going further before, so advancing on issues, and others being left behind. And Romania as a country is not in line with this position, we want to go together and everybody to advance, if possible, at the same time. But so it wouldn't be a kind of a panel discussion you would organize during the Romanian presidency at our embassy. But our ambassador decided to do it nevertheless, because she thinks it's important to listen to other people's point of view. So in this case, to the council's point of view, which is very important because the government listens to it and it's quite an established institution. And she decided to go ahead with the project, even if some of the team members were reluctant about it. And I can say it was a very good discussion and we could clarify our positions better. So I admired her for taking this decision. And it turned out well. This is an illustration of how enthusiasm is important. It's at the end of at one of the concerts. But I also add that as a leader, you have to be competent. So apart from all those personal skills and personality traits, you also have to have some competence in one field, because this is how you decide whether or not to take risks or what to do. It's very important to know your own field. Moreover, I would say, because it's a very stressful job sometimes, that it's important to be detached in a certain way. So to have an overview and over the things, and not to let yourself down when things aren't going properly, or to, get stuck in details. And I'm coming to the balanced approach thing. It's also very, very important, and I could tell during times when there's a lot to do, to be able to relax and let relax, so to say. So work very hard, work efficiently, but also bear in mind that you also have your limits and push it, but not to beyond your limits. I think this is what I meant by the ability to have a balanced approach. I would say that sometimes, however, this is not possible because, of course, theoretically, you should have a balanced approach in life, but there are times when this is just not possible. And perhaps during a presidency, you could feel it, that you have to really push it beyond your limits, and it's good for you as well. I would say that this is something that you have to be conscious of and to accept that it's part of the job, and not just the job in general. Sometimes you just can't have a moderate approach. I was asked by Margaret one question: how should the representative of a country lead to many countries coming together? So during the presidency, as I said, all of the above, but it is important, apart from all of those things, to be a good listener as well. So if you listen to others and their point of view, and you understand what they want, you can then try to identify the common position. So that's also very important. And my final message would be that our ultimate goal should be perhaps not to be leaders, but to develop our full potential, whatever that is, even as leaders. If you feel that you want and you can be a leader, then you should go for it. If not, just try to achieve your full potential. But also, it's also very important to enjoy the present, because I think that we live in times when we forget that life is right now, and tomorrow you never know, but life is right now, so you have to enjoy it. And do some sports, but this is a piece of advice I don't have to say here in the Netherlands, because everybody is very, very, very active.